About Time is a fairly cheery and upbeat romantic comedy that just so happens to also be a time travel movie, and thus, here it is on our sci-fi podcast. So naturally, we'll be coming at this one primarily as science fiction fans first, for better and for worse. Welcome everyone to the Atomic Cinema Experiment. I am Peter, and joining me as always is David.
Come in peace.
This is a science fiction movie podcast. We get to go and talk about a sci-fi movie. It is that simple, and today we are looking at About Time, the 2013 movie directed and written by Richard Curtis, who is primarily known more for kind of British romantic comedies, and this is kind of still that, but also has a sci-fi mechanic in it. Now, why are we doing this movie, you might ask? Well, someone won the right to pick a movie for Ace on a stream thing I did a couple of months ago, and she was determined to pick the girliest movie she could get away with while still being applicable for Ace, and that's how we landed on About Time. So here we are, something a little bit different today.
Yeah. Just watch. We're somehow going to reach a whole new part of YouTube's algorithm and completely fail there.
Yeah, although I would like to start off with an announcement of sorts, a statement that I'd like to put out there in black and white, as it were. Well, verbal, of course. I just want to make it clear that I am not taking my pants off for Rachel McAdams.
How dare you?
The context for why I said that will become clear later when we're talking about a certain scene in the movie.
I like when you quote a movie completely out of left field, and then I just completely like, wow, Pete, that's so brave of you.
Yes, there's context for what I just said, but we'll get to that later. The basic premise of this is basically just that a young man played by Domhnall Gleeson finds out on his 21st birthday, or soon after his 21st birthday, that the men in his family can travel back in time. They can't go forward past where they're currently living, but they can go back in time pretty easily and return to where they came from, and that's it. And he is a bit awkward, and he's struggling to meet a girl, so romance will also ensue. And that'll do it. We'll start spoiler free, of course, as we always do. We'll give you a warning before we get to the spoilers. And if you're enjoying the show on YouTube, hit the like button. Helps out a bunch if you do. And of course, you can support everything over at Patreon and get some extras. But I'll tell you more about that at the end of the episode. So, all right, the housekeeping out the way. I guess the first question I'd ask is, had you seen About Time before, David?
About Time, no. Love Actually, yes. Which, in trying to rent this movie, all of the marketing was from the director of Love Actually. And, I mean, I'll just be upfront. I enjoyed Love Actually. I think it was a very smart, witty rom-com. Definitely a rom-com, but it did different things than I expected your standard rom-com to do. It was a bit smarter about it, and so I appreciate it on that front.
Sure, yeah. I have not seen Love Actually. He also, before he started directing stuff, because before he did Love Actually, he wrote Four Weddings and a Funeral and other things that were popular. So he's been around a long time, just as a writer first, and then directing kind of came a little bit later in the 2000s. I don't think I've seen any of his movies. This is a complete corner of cinema that I have nothing against. I have no ill will towards it, but none of his movies have ever really appealed to me. They have just kind of a look and feel to them that does not reach out to me and grab me. So I've just never ever bothered. So I went into this completely fresh, no idea really what to expect outside of just what the impression that the poster gave me. And so on.
I thought that this director, like as a director, he would have had more. Turns out I've seen basically his entire filmography, because it's Love Actually, Pirate Radio, which was okay. It wasn't everything I wanted it to be. And then About Time. And then everything else that's listed is little shorts or music videos.
Yes. Although Pirate Radio is the weird American title for that movie. It's actually called The Boat That Rocked. I think it's the original title.
Yeah, I remember that because it took me a while to track it down. I was like, how do I watch this movie? I can't find it.
Yeah. Which I had forgotten about until you said Pirate Radio, and then it just sort of clicked. Oh, he means The Boat That Rocked. That's what he's talking about.
I mean the one starring Philip Seymour Hoffman. That's all I remember about that movie. Nothing else stood out to me.
I mean, I've never seen it. I couldn't tell you anything about it. I remember the poster. I remember it being marketed in 2009, which is scarily not that far away from 20 years ago at this point. But hey, you know, so this has a fairly notable cast in this. I mean, Domhnall Gleeson plays the main character. Rachel McAdams is the co-lead, the love interest, if you will. But there are some other faces that pop up in here fairly early in their career. Like Margot Robbie's in this, and I did a double take, and I'm like, wait a minute. And it's especially weird because it's like, I think Wolf of Wall Street was this year, or maybe it was the year before, but it's around the same time. And that was kind of like how I was introduced to Margot Robbie. It was that kind of time. So I'm like, oh shit, she was in something else that was well known in 2013. So that's wild. Vanessa Kirby is also in here, and it's only like, I don't know, 5 years before she was in a Mission Impossible movie, if that. But still, I don't think I knew who she was when this came out. So I was like, oh, hey, someone else I recognize. So, yeah.
I'm just checking to see what else she was in. Oh, yeah, this was very start of her career. This was like a couple of small movies.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's just interesting seeing some of these faces pop up that kind of obviously became more, just more prevalent later, being in more stuff. Because I wouldn't say Vanessa Kirby's like a huge star or anything, but she pops up in a lot of movies now. So,
oh, yeah.
Bill Nighy's in there playing Domhnall Gleeson's father, of course, who was already a cherished, older actor at the time.
No, this was one of Bill Nighy's first roles. I refuse to believe he did any acting before this 2013 movie.
Well, see, I would go along with that joke, but he was in Hot Fuzz and Shaun of the Dead, and it's hard to just ignore those,
Yeah, I can't imagine why it would be hard on the Mild Fuzz channel to ignore Hot Fuzz being a thing.
Yeah, it's a little bit tough. So there's a bunch of faces in here. It's got its sci-fi mechanic, but it's kind of secondary to the human kind of quirky comedy drama, I suppose, that we're getting instead. And then the time travel elements used to make some points here or there. And it's funny because like watching it, I was thinking like how like diminished is the focus. Pardon me. How diminished is the focus on the time travel going to be? Like, is it going to like just hand wave everything away? Is there going to be consequences for the time travel? Is it going to be like basically just a little garnish on top of everything else? Or is there actually going to be something that comes of it that is like, oh, lessons are going to be learned that are specifically to do with the time travel? And it's kind of in the middle of those two things. It does have some things that are consequences of time travel, but it also doesn't want to make the movie about that, so it never completely commits to it either. So it's kind of in between.
It strikes me a lot of the Little Fish, After Yang sort of stuff, where like the big moral, the big sort of themes that we're going for are of course the primary focus of it, whereas the setting, the idea of there being this gimmick are used just to further those points. It's not the focus, but it's definitely used tastefully and well done to make those points stronger.
Yeah. So I guess we'll just get into it then, see how we feel. So David, what did you think of About Time?
So I'm a sucker for a time travel movie. This is well established over the show at this point. I went into this and I was, okay, they established it very early on in the movie, how the time travel works, what all you can do with it, all that sort of stuff. They don't get too lost in the rules of it all, but more stuff is established as the movie progresses. I gotta say, I didn't find myself really liking this from a time travel movie perspective. I think that the rules are a little bit loosey-goosey, and it does feel like it is not really trying to do that much from a interesting mechanics perspective. There's one or two curveballs, but for the most part, it's all focused on the themes. However, I do think this is right up in there in that Love Actually sort of area of it's smart writing. It's funny when it wants to be. It does a good job of playing on those emotional moments and really making them work. So overall, I still got to give the movie a thumbs up. I still think it's a very well-made movie. It's exactly what it is trying to be. If you're not into the more romantic elements of it, then it's just not going to work for you. That's perfectly fine. But I was thinking that this was up there in terms of the Love Actually smart writing and not talking down to its audience when it comes to like, oh, we're gonna have the liar revealed subplot, or we're going to have the whole subplot of him, like, even from a time travel perspective, these subplots of like using the power in a way that's like against the romance and then realizing, oh no, true love conquers all and all that. No, we aren't that stupid, and the movie knows that.
Yeah, God, I mean, I'm not like passionate about it. I guess that's the first thing I'll say before I get into it. I certainly think it's well made. It is what it wants to be. It's very confident in its writing. It did get a proper laugh out of me a couple of times, which is good. You know, I wasn't because I wasn't necessarily having a miserable time beforehand, but there's definitely a moment in the middle where they hit me with something that was genuinely really funny, and I was not prepared to laugh as much as I did in that one or two instances. But at the same time, like, I'm watching it and I feel like everything is so kind of sweet, and like there's almost no risk. Like, even if something bad is supposed to happen or has happened, I'm like, well, everything's going to be all right, because it's a very sentimental movie. It's just like super sentimental. The piano theme comes in, and I get that's why people like this type of movie, because it's like almost like a comfort thing. It's like, hey, everything will be okay in the end, even if technically something had actually happened. It's like, nah, but we can be happy about the life we have, and so on and so on. I don't know if the tone of this necessarily completely works for me. I do think there's some smart touches in how to navigate the main character's use of the power, because I think there's a couple of moments in this movie where if it took a slightly different direction, it would turn into a thriller about a psychopath who is because if I tell you, oh, someone uses their power to like try again to try and like make this woman fall in love with them, that very quickly becomes like monstrous, because you're like not giving her a choice, because you're just going to keep retrying and retrying until you succeed, and then she's had no real choice in the matter because she's just been kind of not worn down, that's not even the right phrase, but like manipulated.
She's been gamed.
Yeah. But the movie's smart enough to like, no, they actually hit it off genuinely first, and the only reason why he has to use his power to try and fix things after is because he does something selfless that takes away the genuine like first that interaction they had. And it's like, okay, so they go out of their way to make sure he's likable, he's genuinely good, and he's not a monster. And I thought that was a good navigation of those things, because it could have very easy. There is definitely versions of this like script that could pivot just slightly, and I'd be comparing them to the main character from Obsession, which just came out a couple of months ago. And I think that it's very smart to not fall into those pitfalls. So congratulations on that.
I do wonder if this movie can act as like a Rorschach test of like somebody, just to say like, okay, here's the power set, here's what he does with it, do you agree or disagree? And like the worst type of person is going to be like, nah, man, he did it all wrong. He should have been going around getting bitches left and right. It's like, okay, well, you failed.
What I will say, though, is that when it does try to throw in a curveball, a consequence, it's kind of dealt with in a very conveniently easy way, which I thought should have had a more lasting, a more lasting impact from. And and it's so hand waved away that it did kind of annoy me. And it's not like before that point I was under the impression, oh, the sci-fi part of this is going to be like hard, cerebral science fiction. No, I'd accepted the movie for what it was, but it introduced this consequence, and then the way it hand waved it away very quickly did irk me. I get that the character's choices in the moment do have some impact, that there are choices that are made and there's like negatives to the choices that are made, but it does feel like something was fixed that should have been unfixable because of the way it's
I know exactly
explained.
what you're talking about. Yeah, it's I feel like over the course of the movie, and this goes back to the idea it doesn't really care about time travel mechanics.
Yeah,
it very clearly lays out the short-term butterfly effect. But when you start playing with the long-term butterfly effect, I don't think it really wants you to think about that. It's kind of just like it's like whatever, it'll all work out.
Yeah, and not to, again, spoil anything, or, I'll be as vague as possible here, but I do think there's a little cheeky thing they do right towards the end. It feels like it's just breaking all the rules that they've said, and it's just like, we'll just be careful. It's fine. I don't. Yeah. Risking a lot there. Just be careful. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. As long as you can remove yourself entirely from your own timeline, it's primer rules. That's the key. You remove yourself as a variable.
Very good. I mean, other than that, though, I mean, there's some likable moments. There's some cringy moments as well. Like Domhnall Gleeson's character, Tim, there's a lot of his stuff where he'll say something stupid or something awkward. And some of that's funny. Some of it's kind of cringy and like, oh, God, just let this scene end, please. Or let him fix it quickly just so I don't have to sit in this uncomfortable moment anymore, please.
Yeah. No, Tim is very cringy. I've always said that. Yeah.
Yes. Yes. The first openly ginger table tennis champion contender. Yes.
Yes, absolutely. I don't think I ever like cringed at a moment it didn't feel like the movie was trying to make me cringe at, though. Like it always felt like
sure, yeah.
It was for the sake of what they were going for rather than, ooh, that joke didn't land.
No, you're right. I just don't know if I'm necessarily... I mean, I guess it depends on the type of cringe. Like, if Larry David's making people feel uncomfortable with his shtick, like, I kind of love it because I'm identifying with the way he's making people feel uncomfortable. But when Tim's being uncomfortable in this movie, it's like, oh no, this is like insecure uncomfortable where he's just messing up. Whereas if someone like Larry David's making people uncomfortable, he's so confident in who he is. He doesn't give a shit that he's making them uncomfortable. He doesn't give a shit that this is cringe. He will make them bask in the cringe so that he can get his point out. And that's a lot more, I don't know, comfortable for me to watch, I guess.
Yeah, no, I get that. I will say the one thing that it wasn't even an annoyance thing. I just recognized how many times it happened. How many times there was a small stumble or something like that at the beginning of a sequence, so that when we redid that sequence, he could dodge the stumble. But like the rest of the sequence should have been enough. I don't feel like we really needed the stumble there to just make him that much geekier and more awkward. I
think you needed maybe the first time he ever does it, so that it's just like a little thing. It's the Groundhog Day thing. You have a bunch of things that you know are going to be different when he interacts with it the second time. You do that the first time he goes back and uses his power, but after that, you never needed it again.
Yeah.
So, it is what it is.
Now, what did you think of Rachel McAdams as our romantic lead, our interest here?
But she's fine. I mean, I've no. So, yeah, that's
good.
Yeah. I mean, she's. I think she's a very dependable actress. I think she's very likable. She's got good chemistry with Domhnall Gleeson. She does the whole, quirky joking thing, bouncing off of him quite well.
Yep.
The best I can say, really, I suppose.
I liked her a lot. I think she grew on me more as the movie progressed. I was a little bit worried in the beginning because, she's got like this bang cut and like the big square glasses and all that. And I was like, oh man, we're really going for like the super nerdy kind of girl here.
It's so funny you're bringing this up. I
know, that's why I was leading into it.
Yeah, this is funny because this was nothing to me because just like a month ago I watched Send Help, where she is such a caricature of like the ultra nerdy office worker that this was like nuanced at the start of this by comparison.
Okay. Fair enough. I actually was going a different direction. Trivia in this, I thought you may have seen this. Trivia, apparently their first choice to play this role was not Rachel McAdams.
Oh, who was it?
'Twas Zooey Deschanel, which,
I could see it.
That opening feels it.
I could see them wanting Zooey Deschanel. You're right. Yep.
I'm glad they went with Rachel McAdams, though. It feels better. It feels not like we're going to be locked into that opening scene for the whole movie.
Yeah, no, that's fair. I think I think both the leads are solid, right? I think they both do a job of playing the roles they're supposed to play, which is basically just to be as likable and adorable as possible. Well, that's basically how I describe the pair of them.
Yeah, that's one thing that I didn't even think about until just now. Again, as I was renting this, there's marketing, there's little descriptions and stuff like that. And one of the descriptions says, blah, 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 he's got the power to travel through time, but he'll find that he's still subject to all the ups and downs of normal relationships. And it's only now that I'm realizing, what downs?
Well, I mean, that's the thing, is that I just said that they're as likable, as adorable as they can be. I would maybe argue my downside to that is that it'd be nice if, he had one fault. Maybe that by the end of the movie he overcomes, or like they have like a genuine argument at some point that has like real weight behind it, that's not just a misunderstanding because he did something stupid that he's going to fix with his time power in a minute anyway, so who cares. Yeah, but I get it though that the people who I think really like this movie probably love the fact that everyone's likable and that there isn't like a flaw. There isn't like a real raw character beat where it's like, it reveals like what his real flaw is. Aside from just being a bit dorky and shy, there's no real meat to that. Yeah, now that we're talking about it, I think I would have liked him to have a flaw and have made a mistake that he had to choose to live with and not change, arguably. Yes. That would have been nice.
Because I will say that is... I don't know how familiar you are with Love Actually, but it is...
Not at all. Although, the one thing I do know is that someone holds up signs with words on them, because that happens in this movie as well, and it did stick out to me.
Oh, yeah, it does. I guess that's a director thing, yeah.
Different context entirely, I believe, but still.
Yeah, absolutely. So Love Actually, it follows a bunch of different subplots, like multiple different people and different types of relationships across the whole movie. And they all end up intersecting by the end. It's very well
Swingers,
done. But, yes, exactly. So you say that. One, I don't know if it's in like the general version, but one of the subplots is a pair of porn actors. And how they get along and like get a blossoming relationship out of it.
Best subplot of the movie, I bet.
It's Martin Freeman, and I can't remember the female actress.
Martin Freeman is the porn actor?
Yeah.
I don't know if I had to peg that, but all right.
Yep. Anyway, but
someone else probably pegged him, but not me.
The same applies in terms of nobody really has a fault. Everyone has something that's for the point of the movie stopping them from getting what they want, but they're still more or less perfect people in spite of that or around that. And I feel that carried over here. I do feel like everyone's kind of just doing the perfect person thing, and the only thing that's keeping them apart is just their awkwardness, just their weirdness here, which isn't a fault so much as it is just the thing standing in the way for about 3 seconds until we either do a reset or they find it adorable.
Which I think gives me a very strict ceiling on this, because I think I would respond way more to a movie that has characters with flaws that feel more real and not something that's basically just a fantasy of everyone is perfect and everything will work out, right? And I get that's why people probably like this type of movie, is because it's comfortable, it feels nice, it's almost a fantasy effectively. But for me, there is a ceiling there, because I'm like, no, I would rather some actual drama would be good.
Again, we can barely get into it without spoiling anything, but I do think that the most you really get out of that is the sister subplot, and it lives and dies there.
It's definitely the closest you get, and I don't necessarily think it's poorly done in and of itself, although I don't think it's enough to fill the void that I am talking about. And even then, it does feel like the sugary sweet, like cautionary tale that'll still work out kind of thing, So, I
got you.
It's fine. It's a perfectly fine movie. I can see why it appeals to a particular audience. I think for me though, it was never going to go above a certain ceiling, and that's okay. It is what it is. I think the actors are charming enough. It's got some quirky and fun little bits of dialogue or little setups that have cool payoffs, but ultimately, I don't think I'll ever return to watch this. I don't think it's nothing I'm ever going to be super enthusiastic about.
Yeah, I mean, I still, as much as I say I wasn't that into it on like a sci-fi, like time travel movie or anything like that, I do still think it's very well done, very well made. It's a super tight script. The comedy works on pretty much every beat it tries to. So like, if I were making a time travel list and just off of the quality of movie, it would have a chance of ranking in that list for sure, but not from the aspect of it's a good time travel movie. It's just a good movie.
Well, you say it's got a chance of being on the list. Do you mean like top 10 or?
No, I think like 25.
All right, that's
somewhere in there.
That's fine. Yeah, me and Tara did a top 10 time travel way early in the show. So yeah, maybe revisiting that if we do maybe intentionally target some time travel movies we've not done yet, and then do like a top 20 or something.
That is my absolute shit. I will 100%.
I'm sure you'd love it.
To watch them.
I'm sure you love it.
Yep.
But anyway, I think we should get to spoilers. I think we're kind of dancing around the real stuff we want to talk about, which, admittedly,
Sure.
this is, a sci-fi movie podcast. We're going to talk about the sci-fi element probably more than the other elements, as you'd expect. Not that we're ill-equipped for that. We do it all the time in another show called Collector's Cut. But I just, I feel like here, that's what we probably want to focus on a bit more. So with that said, spoilers for About Time, and it's about time for spoilers. So here we go.
Can I just start by saying I rented this off of YouTube, and YouTube does that little audience attention graph thing of...
Oh, is there a scene where someone's got clothes off where it's a bit more spiked?
A bit. It is the far and away only spike across the whole movie is their first night having sex together.
Really? Interesting.
Yeah.
You would say that...
Well, yeah, you would think it'd be the later scene where it's the strip tease sort of thing going on, but no.
Well, I guess to skip to that scene, they knocked one out and thought, well, I'm done now. I have nothing left in the tank, so I'll just I'll wrap it up there.
Which I want to be very clear about this movie. It is a rom-com. It is not a steamy rom-com.
No. This is... there's nothing steamy about this movie at all, really. It's got like a very innocent, like, first love, like, googly eyes kind of rom-com kind of feel to it. There's nothing... Like, the timeline apparently had an erection, but I guarantee most people watching it will not get one.
No, definitely not. And anytime you're close, Bill Nighy shows up, and it's like, oh, there it goes.
Speak for yourself. That man is walking raw magnetism.
That's true. The charisma does something.
Yeah. So, okay, the time travelness of this movie, which is basically just, you can go into a dark place, a closet or something like that, clench your fist, tap your toes together, whatever it is, and you just go back to the time that you think about, and it's like, okay, you go back to your sister, you can just teleport somewhere else, you can back to your own body, okay, that makes sense. Now,
however, in the first go-around, they specifically show that they are in the closet that they went into in that previous time. So it's not like they go back to where their body was in the past. Their body also moved.
That's the wrinkle here that we're just going to hand wave away, is that whenever he goes back in time, he always like comes out of like a closet or something. Well, at least from what we can tell, most of the time we don't see where he comes out of. We just kind of we skip straight to the meat of the scene. But the one or two examples we get, it does seem like they do like appear in the closet that they're time traveling in, whereas I feel like it makes more sense that he just jumps to wherever his body was. But I mean, the examples we get are mixed.
This is, as I said, it's a Rorschach test, because my mind would immediately go to running tests on this, where like during this podcast you are looking at me the whole time, and then after we were done, I would walk into like that closet, do the thing, and then you would tell me if I just vanished from my chair.
So here's the thing. Well, I don't think he would vanish though. I think on that point, I think the idea is that like his body's there, because when he comes back, he just comes back to the split second he left. So he would just be standing there and then walk out again. So in the present day time, he just walks into the closet as a second and then he walks back out. That's all.
Oh yeah, no. I'm sorry. I guess what I'm saying is in the past. So like,
okay, all right. So
like right now, if I would disappear from my chair and just walk out of the closet,
right? Okay, the original version of you in that timeline disappears. So the now returning from the future version of you comes out of the. Okay, I get what you're saying. Well, honestly, the first thing that irked me though about the time travel is that the dad sits him down and says, "Okay, this is about wild and stuff, son, but we can travel backwards in time. Here's how it works." But at no point did he ever say how you come back to the present. And I thought that's a pretty important... And I guess it's just the same thing. He just goes into a dark space again and just clenches and does it. But I was like, he never said that, because all I could think when he went back to the New Year's Eve party from like the previous day, all I could think was, does he have to just live out that day again to like catch back up with himself?
I thought so too, because that was he doesn't say you can come back, but he does explicitly say you can't travel into the future.
Yes.
Which to me implies if you travel back to the past, you're stuck taking the slow path.
No.
Because now you're in a new timeline and you need to like make the choices that you would need to make.
Clearly this operates on wherever you've originally pinged from, that is still the present day. So you can always ping back to your starting point.
Right. However, with butterfly effect enabled, where if you make changes, those changes ripple out.
Well, that's the thing. He says, "Oh, what if you mess up history or something?" He's like, "Well, I mean, the butterfly effect's never really come into play before until now. Although, except from one major rule he neglects to tell him until something weird happens later on, but we'll get to that.
Yeah. I do like what they do in this movie straight up front, is they just look the audience dead in the eye and say, here's why all the things you'd want to do would not work. And they just immediately are just like, he wants to get a crap ton of money. And then they say, oh, your great uncle did that. Most miserable guy you'll ever meet. Like, absolutely, you don't want to do that. Go with something more personal and something that is going to make you individually happy.
And also, you can't go to before you were born, so you can't go back and kill Hitler. You can't go back and bang the hell in a Troy, which is the example Bill Nighy gave. That's a weird fantasy that he's got, but sure, whatever. So it's like, okay.
Conveniently forgetting to list that he could bang anyone alive within his life, but whatever.
Which, to be fair, for most people, that's most of the people they've ever been attracted to are the ones that are alive in the same time frame as them, but you know.
I'm just saying, Bill Nighy probably got it on for like many decades
before he met his wife.
Back and back and back and back and back.
Yeah. So, okay, this is fine. You've established this. He goes back in time to the New Year's Eve party the night before, and this time he doesn't chicken out and not kiss the girl that's smiling at him. He kisses her, and fully sure. And obviously I knew it wasn't the main love interest because I knew Rachel McAdams was going to show up eventually. But I thought, oh, maybe this will be like a character that he has a little bit of time with before he breaks up with her. We never see her again. She's just gone after the kiss. It's like, oh, that was it. But
her name is Polly. That sounds right to me.
Well, all I could think though is that after the kiss, she says, "Oh, thank you, Tim." It's like, "Oh, you're welcome, Polly." And all I could think was, is this what male fuzz Tim's like marriage is like? Does he kiss his wife and then she's like, "Thank you, Tim"? He's like, "Oh, you're welcome."
I'm choosing to believe that. I absolutely want that to be true.
That's how they ended up with kids. They just, "Oh, thank you, Tim. You're welcome."
I also like the idea that like once a week, give or take, he's just like, "Oh, can you excuse me?" And he just goes stands in the closet for a while.
Yeah, but he's not time traveling. He's just wanting some happy, quiet time.
Yeah, he's just, I'll write another issue of President Werewolf eventually.
Life's weighing him down. He has to just go and have a moment of peace.
Yep.
I mean, he's got multiple kids, multiple dogs, multiple cats. Like, it's a madhouse. It's a madhouse over there. So, okay, they've established this, and he tries that, it works. And then the next sort of block of the movie, and we'll go back and introduce all the family members as they become relevant, but the next block of the movie is that... I can't remember what...
Margot Robbie shows up.
Yeah, but she was the sister of...
So...
The sister's boyfriend? Was that who she was?
Tim had a sister. The sister met a new guy named Jimmy at the New Year's Eve party. And
well, yeah, of course Tim has a sister. Kit Kat's a main character, yeah. So.
And Jimmy, who is the boyfriend, his sister is Margot Robbie.
Okay.
Or no, his cousin.
His cousin is Margot Robbie. Right away. So Margot Robbie's visiting, and for whatever reason, she's been allowed to stay at their family house for the summer, right? 2-3 months, whatever it is. And of course she shows up. She's Margot Robbie. His eyes are bulging out his head. He can't believe it. His jaw's dropped. And he is blubbering, is whatever, and he gets like a chance at one point. She's like, "Hey, we're all out on the beach. Hey, Tim, can you put the sun cream on my back?" And he's like,
and he immediately jumps up like, "Oh God, yeah, oh premature. I'm sorry. Oh geez."
Yeah, squirts it all over, and he's like, "I'll be a minute," and he runs away. Rewinds time, of course, and then this time he's like, "Sure, just give me a minute." All right.
Finish my book. Hold on. Okay.
Yeah. But then the other main part of it, other than just the montage of, hey, where everyone's having fun playing tennis together or whatever else they're doing, is that he goes to her on her last night before she's leaving the next day, and he tries to confess he's got feelings for her, and she basically says, your sister warned me about this. Yeah. But, you know, like, it's a bit weird. Like, it feels like an afterthought because you waited till the last night. See if you'd, like, you know, maybe a couple of weeks into this, you'd, like, made a move and, like, tried to confess this. Maybe we could have had a chance, seen where it went. So he's like, try earlier. Fair enough. So, sure enough, he goes back in time. And this time he comes, I mean, we don't know exactly when it is, but a couple of weeks out of the trip.
It feels like about 2 weeks in, give or take.
He goes to the room once again. It's a little bit different. He sits down and she seems a little more receptive, but she's like, okay, how about this? It's quite early in the summer. Why don't we see where things go? And why don't you come to me on the last night and we'll see how we feel by then? Completely contradicting what she said in the future, basically meaning that she, either way, she was going to shoot him down. So whatever the convenient excuse is in the moment to try and like let him down easy, she was going to use. And he learns a valuable lesson here that he can't use this power to like change how someone's going to feel about him. Either they do or they don't.
Yeah. I feel like this sequence would have been perfect if just like she says, "Oh, how about on the last night?" and it zooms out and there's Rod Serling just like, "Consider if you will," and you just see this as his personal version of hell.
Yeah, I would have liked to have thought though that he'd have still tried it on the last night because she said, "That's like how you said last night. I'm here."
Being like, is this fair? Are we doing this? And she's like, "No, I'm not feeling it. You should have been more receptive the whole time through."
It's like, what would have appealed more? We just got like a montage of him walking in and completely like, you know, one time he walks in dressed as a cowboy, one time he walks in dressed as a spaceman, one time he walks in like all black, like I'm going to a gay bar leather, you know, whatever the different outfits are. See which one she reacts to the most.
Yep. Eventually he walks in wearing a mask of Leonardo DiCaprio in Wolf of Wall Street and she's like, yes.
But yeah, okay, so then it's time for him to move on. He's going to move to London. He's not a lawyer yet, but he's working at a law firm. He's kind of the under I don't know, legal aid or whatever.
Clerk, something like that.
He does eventually put on the robe and the stupid wig. I mean, he eventually gets to that point, but yeah, but you know, we get a bit of a montage. He's got this one goofy friend from work that he's also got like a ginger friend from back home that's also like a bit of a little shithead. But like, you know, like these are all
that was during the Margot Robbie thing. He's unimportant till the very end.
Yeah, so it's like, okay, they're establishing all these things. He's rooming with this playwright who's his characteristic I really describe as miserable prick.
Mm-hmm.
That's what he is.
No, we get the honestly, I was surprised this one wasn't rewound because we get the intro to his character where he's just yelling at Domhnall Gleeson, being like, "I was just having the first good idea I've had in months, and then you rang the doorbell and it's gone." And we never see a rewind on that, but I feel like it was perfectly placed.
Joe, I think maybe they should have emphasized this more. My feeling is that after a couple more sentences from him, he realized that no matter what he did, he'd find a way to complain about it. So there was no point. There'd be no point to rewinding because he complains literally about everything that is done or said.
Yeah. He's walking up and he's like showing pictures on the wall. And he's like, "Oh, that's my wife. She wasn't great, but then eventually you learn that she's the greatest person on earth. And I only realized that after she left me." And it's just like, oh, damn. All right. This guy's got some bitterness.
"Here's a picture of my daughter. You can have sex with her if you want. Everyone else seems to be." And then he just walks out. And like, all right. He's
they introduced this guy as like, oh, the whole reason that we managed to be able to pull on this thread and get a room with him is because he was an old friend of his dad's, like back from college or whatever. And then the friend's just like, "Yeah, I never really liked your dad. He's kind of a dick." It's just like, oh, okay, sorry.
But he had to rent a room to someone, so he's like, he'll take whoever, I guess.
Yep.
So the whole thing though is that he meets Rachel McAdams. Him and his friend from work go to like a blind club. This is
a thing that I have to, for the sake of myself, assume was created for this movie because it is the weirdest possible creation I've ever seen.
The weirdest thing is like, I believe that at least one of these places exists. Now, admittedly, I don't think it's pitch black. I think that you can probably still make out enough to get around, would be my assumption.
To defeat the purpose of it, but fair.
Yeah, well, I mean, the whole thing, they're led in by a blind man down to the club, and then you realise, oh, the whole gimmick of this place is that everyone's sitting in darkness, so they're talking to two women. One's got an American accent, clearly. It's obviously Rachel McAdams, her friend, who is basically described as looking kind of like a prostitute is kind of the running joke for her. Turns out to be Vanessa Kirby. But sure. But the point is that they kind of hit it off. They're talking about stuff. They're flirting. Rachel McAdams' character Mary is a big Kate Moss fan.
It comes up numerous times how much he loves Kate Moss, and it's really just there as the thing he can latch on to say like, oh yeah, let's continue talking because I too love Kate Moss.
I didn't realize anyone loved Kate. I mean, I vaguely know her name from back then, but like Honestly, the only thing I know about her is that she lost part of her nose because she took too much cocaine. I think that's the one tidbit I know about Kate Moss.
No more than me. All I know is that her modern professional stuff is just a mask, because you can always tell that underneath she's still that girl running naked on the beach.
Hey, this movie's 13 years old. This new stuff ain't so new anymore.
Yeah, fair enough.
I don't know what she's doing now, but yeah, but they hit it off, right? And like, you know, like Roger tries to hit on, that's his friend, tries to hit on Vanessa Kirby, and she's like, nah, it's not happening. Like, you know, she's making all these funny faces. But Tim tries his luck, asks Mary for a number. She seems receptive to it. She gives him the number, and he's like, oh, this is the most prized possession I own. And obviously I'm thinking, all right, for some reason, he's going to lose this due to time mechanics. I will say, I did get a little frustrated how kind of he doesn't see things coming, like when he changes stuff, because there's a few times in this movie where he gets really sort of blindsided by the fact that, oh, this thing didn't happen because I did this instead because I went back in time. And I'm like, how did you not consider that? Like, how did you not consider that? Because effectively what happens here is he goes back home, his roommate's play opened that night, but he's miserable because one of the main actors forgot his lines and it was humiliating and everyone's talking about it. And he feels so bad that Tim, without thinking about it, decides to go back in time and try and help with this, right? And I think it's actually kind of frustrating that, one, he doesn't predict that the fact that he went and spent the night at this play instead meant he never met Rachel McAdams, because that feels really obvious to like see coming. But two, the thing that really bugs me about it is I actually think it'd be a more selfless act if he predicted it and still made the choice to do it anyway, because he wanted to help his roommate. Like, that would actually have been... But he kind of doesn't realise that he's given up this great new girl that he's met and hit it off with. But, you know.
So there's this concept in like criticism and stuff like that you can't assume that the character in the movie knows what genre of movie they're in. And typically it's used for like horror films where it's like, oh, why didn't they do this? It's because they don't know they're in a horror film. Like they think that they're just in their life.
They don't know what a zombie is, so they can't assume the zombie rules. Yeah.
I don't think that applies here. I feel like once you know that you can time travel, you should be able to know the basic mechanics of it. It's not a matter of genre of like, oh, he doesn't know all the stuff because he doesn't know all of his time travel rules. Well, why not?
To be clear here, and this is established from the very first time he goes back, it's not like when he goes back in time, there's now two of them running around. The one that was there and now the present day one who's back in time. No, he goes back into his own body and drives it around until he leaves it again. And then, you know, whatever changes from that point on, you'll find out when he comes back, effectively. And we find out later from the sister that basically as soon as you come back, like your memories kind of flood with whatever's different, right? Well,
to an extent.
Well, maybe not always. I mean, it seems to for her. He doesn't seem to remember something big later on. Now that I'm saying that out loud, but that's we'll get to that. So it's like, okay, you really should have seen that coming. But like I said, though, they do navigate this quite well, because if he was just using his time mechanics to try and find this woman that he met, it could eventually read as a bit stalkerish. But because they did hit it off, they did genuinely like each other. She seemed to like him. And the only reason why he's having to do this is because he did something selfless to help someone else, means that you can't hate him for it. It's like, no. He's just trying to like rekindle something that was there. Having said that, though, when he does eventually like think of something, like a way to find her, because he sees that there's a Kate Moss exhibit on at an art gallery, he's like, oh,
sure,
right, she's going to go to that. She loves Kate Moss. Montage of her sitting there. I actually got confused at one point here because his sister shows up, Kit Kat, and she sits with him. And I thought there was a line she said that made me think he told her, or that she knew about the time travel, and she didn't.
Yes,
she definitely didn't. But there was a line that made me think she did, and I went under. I was under the impression for like the next 40 minutes that his sister knew about it.
Yeah. So just to be clear on that sequence, he's sitting at this art exhibit, and they show the montage, people rushing by. Eventually, his sister, who is very manic pixie girl coded, like just take that as you will. When she finally shows up, when Mary finally shows up, he goes up and, again, not realizing the rules of what he would have to do here, he's like, oh, Mary. And she's like, how do you know me? He's like, right, sorry, completely. And he flubs it.
That bugged me so much that he went up and didn't realize she wouldn't know who I am because we've technically not met. That was like...
I mean, I'm willing to pass it off of like maybe he was overexcited in the moment and he just maybe he did know it. Maybe he realized he would have to do it and he just forgot because of like, oh, after a week, she's finally shown up or something like that.
Yeah.
But, so he flubs it and he's like, oh God, I've ruined it, whatever. And he goes back to the sister whose nickname is Kit Kat. And she basically is like, all right, well, do over. And he's like, oh yeah, okay. Yep. And everything in the coding of the movie says he finds a closet and he goes and stands in it. But no, he just walks up to her again and says, hi, me again. I love Kate Moss. And they're all like, oh, at the Kate Moss exhibit? Who would have known?
But she gives her like philosophy and what she likes about Kate Moss, which he uses later when he goes back again. Which, yeah. So here's the weird thing about this though, is I didn't realize, like, the passage of time from like the night he was supposed to meet her to this Kate Moss exhibit, I was a bit unclear on, because as we find out, he kind of like awkwardly talks to her and Vanessa Kirby, and they kind of agree, okay, you can hang around with us at the art gallery, whatever, let's go get a bite, fine, right? Turns out Rachel McAdams here has a boyfriend who shows up, and he's obviously...
Where she didn't at the dinner when they met in the original timeline.
Presumably, presumably.
Yeah, it implies that a very short period of time has passed by here where it's a shock that she has a boyfriend.
Well, yeah, but that's my problem, though, is I thought it was like 3 days later. So I was like, wait, when did this happen? Did she always have a boyfriend and she was being kind of cheeky by going to that like dinner and flirting, right? I was like, are they trying to tell me something here? And they're not. I think it has just been weeks, because it turns out she met this guy 2 weeks ago, and I'm like, oh, so it's been at least like 2.5, 3 weeks since the night they were supposed to meet.
It is strange. They give, like, because it's part of a running joke. It's a joke, at least for this scene, where Domhnall Gleeson is trying to get information so they can go back to when they met and like stop it from happening.
When did you two crazy kids meet? Yeah. What was the street? What was the time? What was the exact context?
They do give an exact date and time at this point, so you probably could map it all out.
Yeah, and honestly, I will say this. Vanessa Kirby offering her home address to this crazy man she barely knows when he asked where they met, because it happened to be at her party, I thought was maybe the most unbelievable thing in the movie.
Someone desaturate this and add like a more chilling soundtrack and just like set up Domhnall Gleeson to be that guy.
I'm like, why would she offer her? And it's not even like she just like, see if she just said, oh, because he's like, oh, I want to paint a picture, and she said, oh, I live in this area, or I live by this park. That would be
I live down in Surrey.
Somewhat acceptable. Like, yeah, but she gives the number and the actual address. She says it out loud, and I'm like, why would you give that to this guy who, frankly, is at least a little bit weird from your perspective right now? So very strange to me.
The moment he gets that information, he's like, all right, well, I gotta go. You guys make a cute couple, bye. And he heads to the bathroom and just immediately goes to that party.
Yeah. So here's the thing. Here's the question I have is, as much as had they hit it off the night they were supposed to meet, she would have never met this other guy. They don't really give us enough of this guy being a douchebag for I think for us to just hand wave away, oh, he kind of ruined this other guy's chances of happiness because he might have lived a long happy life with her, had they stayed together. They never give us like, oh, this is why it's okay that he gets screwed out of this potential relationship.
The most they do is after he walks into the party, he finds Mary, he's like, hey, let's get out of here. This party sucks, which is the same thing that the other guy did in the previous timeline. He managed to pull away. We see him entering the party, and he's like doing the whole thing of like slicking back his hair, doing finger guns and stuff like that. And he's like, God, that guy sure is a dickhead, right? And Mary's like, yeah, totally. And he's like, all right,
yeah.
Cool.
They make him look a bit douchey, but it's after he's already done all this technically to him. So it's like, but we didn't know he was a douchebag first. So it's not, like, and, it's a little bit. It's probably the only time where it feels like what he's doing with his power feels a little bit cheeky, because he's using the tactic that he used to say, hey, let's get out of here, and he's kind of like destroying this other potential relationship, which maybe was doomed. Who's to say? But it's not like he knew that. He was just like, I know, I technically met her first, even though she doesn't remember it. So I'm calling dibs. I'm going back in time and I'm fixing this.
Yeah. I don't know. I guess if you want to view that as like his one little like greedy moment, but that really is the worst he gets over the course of the movie. Everything else is so selfless.
It is the worst he gets, but I think the problem is the movie doesn't even acknowledge it is why I'm completely. Because it'd be one thing if he did that and then later felt a little bit guilty, or like it's like, okay, that was kind of a little bit selfish what I did there. I'm going to like be careful not to do that again, or whatever. Like some moment of self-reflection or some consequence for it. Who's to say? But because the movie, I think, doesn't want us to even think about it, the movie just wants us to like, yeah, we're rooting for him because he's the nice main character, and we're just going to like cheer him on.
Yeah, I think the only thing that theoretically could have been like a thing is maybe while he's at the party, or like just after they like are getting starters or whatever, and she goes to the bathroom or something, he gets a call from his dad, and the dad just gives him like a little talking down to, just a thing of like, it's your powers, do what you want, but make sure that's like the right thing to do. That's all it would have needed.
Yeah. So they get looks like a snack or something at some diner. They head it off. It's nice. And she asks him to walk her to her car. But then the sort of little twist on that is that after they've been walking for a while, she admits that her car's parked at her place because she got a lift to the party. Yeah. And
immediately he's like, "Oh, I'm at your place." Oh.
Well, all I could think was if you just asked him to walk you home, I'm pretty sure he'd have said yes. Like, I don't know if the deception was needed here.
It's meant to be cute. I'm willing to give that one. That's just that's a little cute thing.
So basically, she invites him in, and she's like, "Hey, I'm going to go put on some pajamas, and then in a minute you can come in and take them off if you want." And I thought, who puts on pajamas? Like, I get putting on sexier clothes to take off for sex, but old-fashioned stripy pajamas, like,
that's her kink, man. Don't shame.
It's very strange to me. Very, very strange. But and it's not even like it's to make it easier to like undress quickly, because she's still wearing her bra, and that even becomes a point in the scene, is that he's like trying to unclasp it from the back, but it's a fronter. So he's trying to like, so there's some lessons to be learned. So he stumbles in, they stumble around a little bit, right, and have sex, and they're sitting there after the fact, and she's like, "Oh, that was nice, no, it was fine," and he's like, "No, it'll be better next time," and he's like, "Oh, excuse me one moment," and he goes off into a closet, and we start the scene again, and they have sex again, and this time it's a bit more, the sheets are more ruffled.
The first time through, they were lying perfectly parallel. This time, like, they're lying crossed over each other, and the sheets are like completely rustled and all over the place. And
then it's not like he needs to correct it to be more impressive. He just, I think, is really gunning for another go. So he dips away again, goes back in time, and then this time he comes in when she's not even finished putting her pajamas on, and kind of says, "No, now, it's happening right now." And then this time they end up lying on the floor, and she's very impressed. Now, they did get a good chuckle out of me here. Now, I did have the question when this laugh came up, because it kind of affects how funny this is. Is she turns, because he says something like, "Oh, I'm going to have the best sleep ever right now," and she turns to him and says, "Well, I only get, like, the most impressive girl you've ever met only gets one time, and
the man of my dreams can only go once."
And I thought, wait a minute, okay, this begs an interesting question. When he's going back in time, is his body also resetting physically, in the sense that he's like, from a stamina perspective, is he back at 100 again? Or is this like he's just had sex 3 times pretty much back to back? Because if he's just had sex 3 times back to back from a physical perspective, that makes this line really funny, that she thinks he can't go again, but he's sitting there going, "No, I can't move. I'm drained."
I think the implication of the movie is the latter. I think it is a thing where he feels the exhaustion, but everything about how the rules are set up does not make sense for that to be the case.
That's fair. Yes, that's fair. But it is funnier if, like, no, he's put in more time than most.
Yeah,
and she's like, only once. It's like, "Oh no, I've made my own bed and now I'm lying in it. Oh no."
Yeah. He's just like, "Oh, sorry, I had a long day. Don't worry. Next time for sure."
Yes. And again, they kind of circumvent this being like a creepy thing, because she's already had sex with him, so he's not like tricking her into arguably he's tricking her into a second and a third time, but he's not tricking her into the act of sex initially. So it circumvents creepiness elements for the most part.
Yeah. I was going to say, the only time that it felt a little bit weird is when he just barges into the room to begin with, but like, when she says the line, "Oh, and you can come in a minute," and
she's already said that. Yeah,
she's already like, "Yeah, all right, we're doing this. It's gonna happen."
Yeah, the invitation's there, and obviously, if she said, "What are you doing?" No, obviously he'd have to respond to that in kind. But but that's not how she responds to it. So
So immediately following that, we get the first like or no, not the first, because I guess moving to London was the first, but the second major time skip.
Yeah, montage time of just
their entire relationship develops and
happy.
they move in together.
We go to the subway together, we cook together, everything's hunky-dory, everything's all perfect, which did eventually lead to maybe my favourite laugh of the whole movie. Because we go a little bit when he's not really using his powers for anything. Now, it does occasionally in his narration say that he would sometimes go back just for the fun of like enjoying that day again or whatever, but we don't really see him use his powers again, and the next time we get to see it is that they're having a happy life, they're living together, and she just blurts out, like out of nowhere, oh, my parents are like visiting, like, no, you need to put on some trousers. And he's like, no, no. And it comes a little bit, and she's like so frantic, and she's like, oh, they're conservative, so like, don't say we're living together, don't say this, blah, blah. And don't mention oral sex. And he's like, what? Why would that come up? Why would that come up? Is your dad going to ask about it?
Yeah.
Well, I'm not at the laugh yet. I'm setting it up, right?
Okay, all right.
So he's getting frantic. He puts on a different pair of trousers because the first kind were too free-spirited, I guess. So he's put on smarter trousers, and they've set it up so much that when she opens the door to her parents who are here, the first thing she does is say one of the things that she told him not to say, which is, yes, he is living here with me. And that makes him so nervous that he just blurts out, but absolutely no oral sex. And I have to admit, that was quite funny.
It was. I got a good kick out of that. Although I didn't pick up the nervous line from him. I picked up the like, this go around's already screwed. Like, I'm just going for the laugh at this point. Like, why not?
Oh, no. I don't think he did it intentionally. But I think that obviously that as soon as he says that, he's like, excuse me one moment. And then he obviously gives it another go.
Yeah. Just to be clear as to how that even came up, he's trying to do clarifying questions. He's like, okay, do we live together? She's like, no, absolutely not. He's like, okay, are we having sex? And she's like, yes, but not oral. And he's like, why? How does that make a difference?
But I would also add, why would the first part even, why would the sex itself come up? Why would you say that to her parents?
Look, it's not a thing of saying it to the parents. It's a thing of the nosy mom being like, so have you done stuff yet?
I'm sorry, are parents of like adult couples asking this question of their children when they're together at dinner?
If they're extremely nosy and extremely up in their business, yes, I have seen it done.
Look, I think if a parent of an adult child, that was a weird sense, but you know what I mean, like a grown up, their kids grown up. If a parent asks, if they're willing to ask the question at the nice dinner, are you two boinking yet? Then I think they should be free-spirited enough to accept the answer, yes, we're enjoying it immensely. Like, you cannot bring it up if you're not willing to get the answer.
That's what she said. She said, look, if it comes up, yes, say we're having sex, but absolutely no going down on me. That's not part of the deal.
Well, she didn't specify on her. He's the one that cracked the joke about Kyle Langley's afterwards.
That's true.
But yeah, so it's a fun sequence, and it played with the... Because it's mostly about their chemistry and their awkwardness, and that's what made it funny. And you get to have them really fail spectacularly because he can just go back in time and make it a little bit better, so that we don't suffer the consequences.
That being said, it's only the one failure. Like, and then on the second go around, it's just a thing where they keep asking him questions, she keeps answering for him because she's so nervous, and then we just hard cut away from that scene where they're leaving. Like, that's it.
Yeah. And then, of course, the equivalent is like him introducing her to his parents back in Cornwall, and that's a lot more.
That is after a much longer sequence.
That's right, because this is after the proposed. Yeah, okay, so Margot Robbie returns. Like, I'm just going to this man is presented with the opportunity for sex with Margot Robbie, and he turns it down. Right? Yes. I think if your boyfriend turns down sex with Margot Robbie, then he is a saint, and you've locked in a winner. Not only that, it makes him realize he wants to propose. That's how, fundamental this moment is, right? And he actually tries to avoid her, because he sees her at the play that he goes to, right, with his friend Roger. He's like, oh, I recognize her. That's the woman that stole my heart when I was 21, and she left. And...
I think he said 2 summers ago. It's only 2 years. Yeah, but
he tries to talk to her. It doesn't go well. He tries again. It doesn't go well again. Right.
It manages. There's this. She's brought along a friend of hers who she refers to as a girlfriend, and he's like, "Oh, Margot Robbie. That explains why you wouldn't sleep with me. You're gay. That makes so much better." And she's like, no, I didn't mean girlfriend like that." And he's like, "Oh, I'll be right back. And then they do it again. And she's like, oh, this is my girlfriend. And he's like, oh, you better be careful how you use that term. Because some people, not me, but some people might think that means gay. And then the other girl's like, but I am gay. You have a problem with that? And he's like, I'll be right back. But he just goes, yeah.
But this time he decides not to even try and talk to her. He's like, nah, you know what? It's not worth it. Some things are best left in the past. Let's just walk away. But then she runs into him naturally outside, right? And she's the one that sees him first. And it makes an excuse for her friend to go away so she can say, hey, why don't you come and have dinner with me? And it's innocent enough. But at dinner, she does say something to the effect of, hey, you know how I rejected you? Like, sometimes you look back and things, and you're like, maybe I shouldn't have been so rash with that decision. Maybe I should have done things differently.
If only we could go back in time.
Right. And he smells it off, and he's not, but she's like, hey, can you walk me to where I'm staying just around the corner? And he does so, and he's getting to the door, and I'm like, I'm not necessarily in love with this being the potential drama intention we're going to do, is like the love triangle or him like cheating on her, because it feels like it's maybe almost a bit too extreme for how nice he otherwise is. But it ends up not being that. It ends up being her saying, do you want to come inside? And like staring him down like very intently, and he's like, it's been nice seeing you again, I'm just going to head off. And he runs away.
I wanna do an edit where we hard cut from that line to that scene from Wolf of Wall Street, and just edit that all together.
Where she's like sitting on the floor with her foot on his face, and he's like crawling towards her.
The first meeting.
Oh, the first one.
Leonardo DiCaprio's hanging out, and she comes out from behind like the screen or the vanity or whatever. Completely naked.
Yes, sure. I was thinking of the one where he's crawling towards her, and she's like being all like,
oh yeah, like teasing and all that. But that would require. I just imagine her coming inside and just like, oh yeah, go ahead, get comfy, and just all you got to do is plaster Domhnall Gleeson's face on Leonardo DiCaprio, and it all works.
But no, instead he comes back home. Rachel McAdams is like half asleep, and he tries to wake her up to propose to her, and she falls back asleep. So he rewinds time, and there's music playing this time. And he wakes her up, and he's a lot more confident. He's like, no, you need to get up. This is important. I need to talk to you now. And yeah, it's a sweet enough proposal, and she agrees. She says yes, and they've got their quirky dialogue backwards and forwards. And she also adds on, of course, but I'm so glad you did like a little intimate proposal, not some big thing with people around. Like, I'm so happy you didn't do anything like that. And the funny thing is I had a thought there. I'm like, oh, it's kind of sweet that he got that right on the first, like, well, okay, I suppose he reset it because he kind of ballsed up the start of it. But it's kind of sweet that he got the type of proposal right, genuinely, and he's not like cheating to fix it. But then the payoff to that is that he goes behind the curtain, and he's got like a live band playing the music, and he's like whispering them out the door, like, no, she went back to sleep, go on. Sneak out quietly. Yeah.
And they're all just like, what? Okay. Bye.
So, yeah. So we see the build up to the proposal. But obviously, one of the complaints we had when we were talking earlier on is that, there's never a fall and everything's too happy. So it does almost feel like this was the movie's big chance to like give him like a real sort of dilemma he has to overcome. And it ends up just being saccharine sweet immediately again. So, which I'm not necessarily, like, in a vacuum, I don't have a problem with it, but it's just looking back at the movie as a whole, it's kind of like, this is an example of it just going saccharine immediately instead.
Yeah. So, I mean, we are at the hour mark. It's a 2-hour-long movie. We're halfway at this point. And yes, it doesn't feel like there is any sort of real issue or stakes or anything like that. I will say that in about 20 minutes, we start exploring that, but we do have the whole meeting the family scene.
Yeah.
Establishing, and it's honest to God, it's just some nice moments between Mary and Tim's mom where she's basically like, oh, what are your weaknesses? And she's like, oh, I'm insecure, I have a temper, but like my one weakness is your son. And he's like, oh, all right, you're okay, kid. Everyone loves you. You're welcomed into the family wholeheartedly. Well,
the mom actually says, he's my weakness too, but don't tell him. I don't want him getting cocky, because the mom's kind of portrayed as being kind of this hard ass throughout the movies, and that's kind of her shtick in a lovable kind of way.
Yes. Also, I know we like offhandedly mentioned this, but I do want to make very clear that the men in the family can time travel. That is passed down genetically. The women of the family seem to be completely unaware.
Yes.
Like, no, they don't even so much as mention it to their spouses.
I genuinely thought this movie was building up to him telling Rachel McAdams what he could do. Yes. I really thought that was where it was going. But we'll get to kind of the larger picture there, because there's a lot to talk about Bill Nighy towards the end, and there's a lot of thoughts I have on that specifically for them. But for this section, though, the big bombshell is that there's something that they've not told us that they sort of blurt out to the family at dinner, which is that they're also pregnant, right? There's also a kid on the way, which leads to the next set of montages of like, hey, there's a baby now, and all this, and this, and they've got a daughter.
Well, I mean, we do the wedding sequence, which is, if you're talking about saccharine scenes, dear God.
It is funny to me that my mind just skipped over the wedding, which I'm sure is the part that a lot of people really like about this movie. But for me, it's like, well, of course they get married. Of course they do. Moving on.
Yeah. It's literally the poster. It's literally her in the dress, and everyone's smiling and happy.
There's some jokes where like he can't pick a best man, and he ends up actually doing all of them with time travel. So we get like a bit of all their speeches. So his friend's like a dork who's terrible at it. His old friend who's ginger as well is like inappropriate and starts talking about which girls he fingered in high school. The
poet, the playwright character is just miserable the entire time.
So it ends up being his dad, who's the winning guy at the end. And
and then they do the fun bit where it's the dad's like, I think I could have done that better. I think I could have done something. And he's like, no, Dad, don't worry about it. And then the dad travels back to fix his speech.
What I think is interesting about that, though, is I don't think the dad knows that he was the last choice, right? It doesn't seem like he's told him, I did this I had 3 other best men before you, and you were the final option.
So this is one bit of the mechanics that they never touch on. Like, it comes up, they're doing stuff with it, but they never actually do anything substantial with it, which is the overlapping time travels.
Yeah.
Where, multiple people can travel within their own timelines here.
There's definitely questions to that. I think the more interesting thing that they do kind of hint at, which I appreciate, is that right at the start of the movie, when Domhnall Gleeson, Tim, is describing his parents and his family, he brings up that his dad retired at 50 from being a university lecturer, and is basically just someone who likes spending his free time doing stuff, and he's always chipper, he's always happy. And I like the implication based on a line towards the end that it's only been that way because he actually, it was very different for a lot of the original go around, right? But because Bill Nighy's also been going backwards in time, the only reason why he retired at 50 is because he already knew that at age whatever it was going to be, that he was going to get cancer, that he basically said, okay, what's the earliest I can get away with going back and retiring and just spending my last, 20 years or whatever it is with my kids.
I do think there could have been a better pivot point, but I want to hold off on it just for a little bit.
That's fair. Yeah. But it's one of those things where, when you think back to like, he was always happy to play table tennis. He would just sit and, read books and drink tea and do whatever else he's doing. So it feels like at some point he did come back and relived that last chunk of his life in a happier way.
And that's kind of what I was kind of hoping they would touch on, because it's there if you really think about the mechanics of it, is that from Tim's perspective, every time that he's talking to his dad is his dad's last go around. And I feel like realizing that at the end, that like this is the last time that he would have traveled back to whatever moment, like he's basically made his peace with it at this point, that like he is going to die of cancer and this is the last time he's going to be able to do all this stuff. That would have been something interesting to really play on.
Yeah, there's definitely more layers to the mechanics that they just don't even try and ravel into. Because obviously the big thing later on when the dad's actually dying, or even after he's died even, is that, Tim goes back in time to visit his dad, and his dad knows what the rules are, so he's like, so every time he pops up, he's like, this is the day of my funeral, you're coming back to see me. This is after I've died. He always knows that, and he understands it. So that's an interesting mechanic. But one of the big rules that comes up, though, that also kind of gets in the way of that later on is, we're getting into the portion here now. They've got a kid who's, I think she's a year old. It's because it's the 1 year old birthday party, I think, where all this stuff happens. They have a
little girl named Posey, and a year passes where ostensibly nothing happens. The kid grows up, everyone's happy, everyone's fine.
Just living that Hallmark card life.
Yes.
Everyone's
except for Kit Kat.
Except for Kit Kat, who is, had the shitty boyfriend troubles, and she seems to be a little bit on edge, even though she's always happy with her family, she's always happy with her brother, she likes Mary and all that stuff, but her personal life doesn't seem to be going so well. She's moved back home because life in London didn't work out, so on and so on. And she doesn't...
As much as she's the manic pixie girl, she is not in control of her life, of like doing things she wants to do.
She doesn't show up for the kid's birthday party, and then when her boyfriend shows up alone, they're like, where's my sister? It's like, oh, that's not good. She came earlier, and it turns out she had a car accident. She's not dead, but she had a car accident because she was drunk after having a fight with him, and she's got a drinking problem, and she's got this toxic relationship. And obviously Tim, having learned all this, is like, well, I'm going to go and help with this. I'm going to go back in time, all the way back to when she met her boyfriend, which is at the New Year's Eve party where he first used his power, all the way back when, right? So he goes all the way back then.
No. Pause.
Oh, sorry.
Because you're blanking on the biggest part of this.
Don't worry.
All the rules.
I'm getting to that, right? But that's like that's almost a separate thing entirely, right? The fact
No. You're thinking of the wrong thing here. The fact is that this time, like he's like, okay, I got to fix her life, I got to do all that stuff. It's not a matter if he goes back and just like stops them from meeting.
No, you're skipping ahead. No, you're skipping ahead.
Am I?
Yeah, because he goes back in time first and just picks her up. The morning she drove to the party.
I completely forgot about that. You're right.
Yeah, he goes back in time, just drives her, and she's still kind of messed up. She's still got a problem with the booze and all that. But it's not something that they can just, because he talks to Mary about it, and like, hey, this is something she kind of has to fix on her own. Like, we can help her as much as we can. And that's when he's like, no, I can help her. I can help her more than anyone can help anyone else. I can do something miraculous. And that's when if he said, I'm not sure if this is going to work, but I'm going to give it a try and just see if it worked, that'd be fine. But he seems so confident that he can take someone else back in time with him. So he tells his sister that he can travel back in time. He takes her out of the closet, and she obviously just thinks this is stupid, but he does the thing, he holds her hands, and then all of a sudden they're wearing the clothes they wore at that New Year's Eve party, 4 years ago, whenever it is now, however much time has passed.
This scene breaks every rule. Like, every single thing that you can even theoretically imagine that has been set up, this scene breaks it. One, he's able to bring other people who are, I guess, still in his like bloodline. Maybe that's the rule there.
Well, don't even speculate, because the movie gives you nothing to say if that's even a factor, right? He may be able to take Rachel McAdams back in time for all we know. It just never poses the question.
It never comes up. Two, that she, when they get back into the present, she gets that flood of memories all of a sudden, which we already established. Like, it doesn't seem like anyone else has that. It doesn't seem like anyone else is suddenly aware of all the things that changed in the interim.
I hate to play devil's advocate here. My only assumption is that because she's not a time traveler, like her brain just changes instantly. But the time travelers, the men in the family, don't like they're immune to the changes of the timeline, so they're not aware of what's happened.
Fair enough. I mean, again, you're just doing the same thing I did, where you're just trying to make sense of it.
Well, no, the only reason why I think that one, I won't say has more weight, but the only reason why that one came to mind is because that's how a lot of other time travel stories handle it, is that the time traveler is immune to their like perspective changing.
You're in the box, and that's what fixes it.
Yeah, like Doctor Who and shit like that,
Yeah. And then the third thing, which is the next plot beat, is the next thing that is the wrinkle of the story, is that...
Well, hold on, we have to say what they changed first before you get to that.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
So they're in the past, and basically it's like, hey, you can't be with that guy. And she decides, okay, well, she's watching them, and he just goes up to another woman and starts flirting with her, and she's like, oh shit, he would have just had sex with someone else that night if it wasn't me. I wasn't important to him. And she goes up and basically says, okay, I'm going to do what I should have always done. And she goes up and punches him twice and then kicks him while he's down. And the little detail that I kind of like here, although again, it's still kind of, the can of worms is still there with this, is that the dad kind of smirks like he knows exactly what's happening here. He's like, oh, my son's brought her back in time, and she's like getting some revenge from the future.
I feel like I'm on the opposite pole of you, because like I saw that happening and I'm like, what are you doing, Bill? You should be throwing your hands in the air saying, what did you do? You've put the entire time-space continuum at risk here, Tim.
but you definitely get the sense that he understands entirely why this is happening.
Yeah. He knows why it's happening. You get that knowing glance, but like the fact that he's so cavalier with it, I just feel like any other movie or show that deals with time travel, we need the Doc Brown in here shaking Tim by the collar, going like, "What are you doing?"
So they go back to the present, right? And she immediately remembers some other things. The main thing being that Tim's ginger friend is actually her boyfriend now, and they're quite happy. And she goes up and kisses him, and everything seems fine. They're all having a happy day. But then they go back home, right? And someone was babysitting the kid. And if you've watched any time travel things ever, you can see where this is going, right? Yeah. He comes in, he walks through, he's like, "Yeah, I'll feed the kid. Yeah, sure." And he walks in, and then he picks up a boy, and he's like, "Hello, little boy. Something's went awry here." So he travels back a little bit in time just to see his dad, right? It's a quick way to see his dad. And he goes
back to the birth of his child.
All right. So he goes back to his dad, and he says, "Hey, what's going on here? Can I not go before my own kid's birth?" And he's like, "Oh yeah, I should have mentioned this. This is really important, is that one of the things that can actually directly happen, butterfly effect style, is that if you change anything before the birth of your kid, the exact sperm that went to the egg might change." So like it's a cutoff. It's a hard cutoff. I like ever since you and your sister were born, I have not went back before those dates because I can't, because it might mean you won't exist.
Yes.
So that's the wrinkle. And I'm like, okay, that's got lasting consequences. That's a big deal. That is like, oh shit, like now you've got this son, which your son's probably fine, but like that daughter you remember is not there anymore, and that's going to hurt. And that is like the painful consequence of your major action to save your sister's life.
That never was.
And the movie smash cuts to the car accident just happening again, suggesting that he went back in time and just stopped himself somehow of going back and fixing it and taking her back. And then everything's just fixed. He's got his daughter again.
Yeah. Okay. So again, the rules are all broken. Like the fact that the butterfly effect exists, but like also, you can just change whatever you want.
Well, that's the thing, though. Is like if it's such a roulette spin of like to which sperm is going to hit the egg, right? Based on how things have happened. Even if you go back to fix things the way they were originally, even like there might be some small difference, some tiny little difference that still dictates that things are changed. The fact that he just got his daughter back, or maybe he didn't. Maybe this is the thing. Maybe they just have a girl again, and because she's only like one, he can't tell that it's technically like maybe the woman she would have grown into is actually very different from the woman that would have been there otherwise, and you just can't tell because it's still a girl. She still looks like both of her parents, and they would have named her the same name anyway. So
yeah, like maybe it's close enough genetically that like it looks similar. But yes, it's fair enough. But it does feel like what we were missing from this is not that he went back and all of a sudden things are fixed. It feels like he went back to the night of conception and like paused a different number of milliseconds, like over and over again until eventually he managed to nail it. Like, I can't imagine any other way that he would have been able to guarantee this girl again.
That feels like a comedy skit of like just getting into the nitty gritty of the mechanics. All right, we're just going to have to try, we're just going to try and like extend the sex out a couple of seconds, and I'll go back to the present, see how that's affected the outcome. We'll try some different things. Maybe this time I'll come back and I'll make sure we're flipped the other way around or something, or this time we'll do reverse cowgirl, and that'll surely get the kid we want.
I mean, look, that part of it bothered me because it's what the movie presented. That's like, it's saying, oh, okay, this kid is different. What bothered me more in the moment is the fact that when him and his sister went into the closet and they went back to the New Year's party, that's putting at risk his entire marriage, his entire relationship from butterfly effect.
Yeah, because I actually thought there was going to be a moment, because you actually see a shot of him before he sees the new kid. You see him like going into the front door from the outside, and I thought, oh, he's going to go in, it's going to be like a different woman, or it's going to be, oh, you don't live in here anymore, the key doesn't work because it's a different lock, or anything. Like I thought there was going to be more difference, but that's all fine, right? I can accept all those things as they're presented to me. The problem I have is just how quickly he fixes it so he's got his daughter back. Like, it's basically a nothing moment where it's just hand wave away. He just stopped himself from going back, and therefore, that's it.
Yeah, and then the because this movie is done in sections. We don't have an overarching plot. We have little problems we have to fix. The way that we wrap up okay, she still got into a car accident. She still makes bad decisions. How do we fix that? She just figures it out. They sit by her bedside long enough that she's like, I gotta change who I am. I can't be drinking as much. I shouldn't be dating douchey guys like Jimmy.
I think you're being a little cynical with that, because I mean, basically what it's saying is like, no, he's going to have to do this the hard way without using his power, which is just being there and actually being supportive. So him and Rachel McAdams just sit by her bed, even though she tells him to go. It's more about the persistence until she eventually accepts. Now, maybe you could say it's a bit easy how she just accepts it eventually, but I think the point of the scene, I don't think is super cynical. I think it's actually a nice enough message. It's just... I
agree, because it's leading into what Mary said, the idea that like she has to do this for herself.
Mary? Oh, yeah. Okay, I wasn't sure what line you were talking about, so I wasn't sure which character you actually meant. No, but like for me, the problem here is just that the consequences that he has learned of changing the baby is fixed so easily, it nerfs the weight of the threat of it, right? I thought if for this movie to have worked for me, I think he should have had to have lived with, no, this is my kid now, and I can't go back again, or something else will change. Like, I have to accept this. But that's not what they did with it. He fixed it with a hand wave, and that felt... Yeah. It felt... It's not even that it's a failure to the mechanics, even though it is a betrayal of the mechanics that it's set up, but it's a betrayal to the character, like... arc. It's a betrayal to the character drama to me that it was so easy to fix. That's the problem for me.
I agree, because literally the final problem of this movie, the big problem of this movie, revolves around the idea that you cannot go back to before the kid's birth. Like, yes, you can in physical terms, but if you do that and there are such major consequences, that's a reason as to why you cannot do it. But if he is able to fix it this quickly, the final problem of this movie is not a final problem anymore. It's an inconvenience.
Yeah, because the whole thing is they have a second kid, which, you know, he says, you want to have another one. She says, really, that hurt? I don't know. But then it's like, we're young and stupid, so it happened by accident anyway. And then that's all fine. And then the big kind of setup for the last stretch of the movie is that the dad's sick and everyone's aware of it. He's got X amount of time left, and he's clearly known this for a while, and there's final goodbyes and all that. And eventually the funeral and what comes after. And like we said earlier, Tim does go back in time to just talk to his dad, and the dad understands what he's doing and all that. And the big linchpin of the final decision, the tough decision that's going to be made, is that Mary actually kind of out of nowhere says, hey, do you want to have a third kid? And he struggles with this, not because he doesn't necessarily want a third kid, but because, that would be another point of no return. That would be a point where I'd have to let go of the fact that I could never go back and see my dad again. So we'd have to move on.
Yes. Now, I'm just rewinding a little bit. We get the sequence where the dad relates that he has cancer, and we get the lines that imply he's known, like he knew at the end of his life, and then he rewound all the way back to when he was 50. He retired, and he changed his entire life up to that point. What has changed is that, you know, at this point, the cancer was too bad, and there's no way of like really hiding it anymore. So even though he knew about the cancer, now the wife knows, and she spread it about, like, now the whole family knows, and there's no way to get past that at this point in his timeline. What I think could have been an extremely interesting point is the idea of, he says that he never went back to before his kid was born, and like he never changed anything past that point because of obvious, you know, he doesn't want to mess with his kids. I think we should have had, or could have had, a point where he explicitly, once his grandkid is born, never traveled to before that point either, because he didn't want to influence like his son's timeline at all in a way that would make it so that he would have a different kid. And so that shortened down his time even more from what he would have had. Oh yeah, because that could be an interesting thing where it's like, hey, I could keep going back till after you were born, but once you had a kid of your own, I couldn't risk that. So all of a sudden I can only go back a year now instead of 20 years or whatever it was before. So it's like, okay,
That's done that, and then you had a second kid, and that's shortened it again to like 6 months or whatever it is. So
it's just slowly shortening window. But again, he's made his peace with it. We know that every time we see him is his last time on this route, so it must be okay with him to some extent. And
eventually that was going to happen with him having more kids. So the thing for me, though, right, is that after he's proposed this idea of having the kid, and he doesn't take too long to accept it, and then, they're cute about it. She kept saying, "What about now? What about now? Are you ready to have a kid now?" And it's all very adorable. And he eventually says yes, and she gets pregnant, right? And she's actually like on the verge of like giving birth. Like she's not in labor yet, but it's like, hey, any night now it's going to happen. And he goes back one more time, and I was thinking, technically, you're still rolling the dice of the kid that's in her stomach, but I guess since the kid's not out yet, you don't really care because
I've never met that kid. I feel like you're good for like up to a week, as long as you're willing to go back a few times to change the sex of the baby to whatever it is. Like that's, as long as that matches up, it doesn't matter the rest of it. But
I just thought it was funny that he clearly doesn't care that technically the conception's already happened. It's just fine as long as it's before the birth. So
I like the extra implication that like each time he goes around, he doesn't do a sonogram to find out the gender of the baby, because he's like, as long as I don't know, it doesn't matter.
That could have been a funny scene actually, is her saying, "I want to know the sex of the baby," and him being like, "No, let's make it a surprise. Let's make sure we don't know. Let's make sure we don't know.
How about this? You find out and I'll be surprised."
Yeah. So he goes back, and basically Dad kind of tells from the way he's talking to him that, hey, this is the last time you're going to come and see me, right? And he's like, yeah, because I'm going to have another kid, the baby's due, and this is the last time. And Bill Nighy just kind of says, let's break some rules. As long as we're very careful, nothing should be affected. And he goes so far back in time that they go back to when Tim was like 8 years old and they spent a day in the beach together. And yeah, they probably did this, and this is probably just doing whatever they did that day anyway on the beach, so they don't affect anything. But if he is wrong, if they change one tiny little thing by accident, it might literally affect Tim ever meeting his wife, ever having two of his kids, or who those kids are. All of it in question, so they can have this one father-son. So this is supposed to be like heartwarming. They're having this one final day where they're reliving a part of Tim's childhood. And all I could think was, Bill Nighy, you're being a selfish prick right now.
Yeah. Look, based off of how we have already established that when they go back, they come out of a closet. Unless there was a period where Tim Nighy brought his son into a closet and they stood there for a while, there was no way that they were going to change something.
Yep.
Because that must have changed.
Yep. So this annoyed me because this was flying in the face of the mechanics, and him just hand waving it. And I'm using that phrase a lot. There's a lot of hand waving in this. But the way he just hand waves and says, let's just be careful. We'll be cheeky and just do it. I'm like, no, this is an unlikable action. But the movie doesn't want me to think it's unlikable. The movie's playing nice piano music to make me happy about it.
I feel like what was forgotten here along the way is the origins of the term butterfly effect. Which is to say, a butterfly, a small, insignificant creature, flaps its wings. An insignificant action causes massive ripples, causes a hurricane to form down the chain. The idea that, as long as we're careful, we'll do whatever. It doesn't matter how small and insignificant the change is. Dr. Malcolm tells us that chaos theory, it's all just going to spin out into absolute insanity.
Yeah, because there's the whole point of the butterfly effect is the idea that if you flap a butterfly wing or kill a butterfly, that small action in prehistoric times might completely change the course of the entire civilization and everything that's happened since. So yeah,
and it's not even like they did a thing where they're like in a locked room or they're like not interacting with it. They're skipping rocks on a beach. Like
yes.
They're taking things that they may not have grabbed the first time around and are messing with it for the future.
Yeah, how could they possibly know that was the same rock? And maybe the rock hit a fish this time and a fish is dead. Yeah. And there you go. Things are rippling. Literally. They're literally rippling through the water as they're throwing stones into it.
I have to assume, how long have we been talking now? About an hour and a half.
Yeah.
I have to assume, whoever it is that picked this video, they hate the fact that we're going so in on the mechanics. They're like, God damn it, this is a feel-good movie, and I wanted you to feel something.
I do feel something. I feel annoyed that they don't pay attention to their mechanics.
Yeah. I will say, like, look, yes, the music swells. We get the end of the movie is just basically showing a little bit more of their lives and everything else that they go through.
Yeah, well, the final thing, aside from just the montage quality of like, hey, because it sort of montages around like all the side characters just enjoying something. So it occurs to like Vanessa Kirby just loving a chocolate eclair. She's like, oh, I'm having this. The asshole roommate's like throws something in the bin and he's like just happy that he nailed it. That's his little happiness. But the main final thing it does before that little montage is that it just shows you like a sort of stressful day in Tim's life where he's like got his first big case as a lawyer and all these little moments leading up to it.
This is earlier on, by the way. This is right after the dad died. Like after the
sure, but it's in that last chunk, right? So it's before the time travel with the dad, I suppose, but it's in that last sort of stretch, which is basically the dad gave him like a bit of advice, which is like, hey, relive every day. No matter, even if things didn't go wrong, just relive it so you can appreciate it again, right?
Without changes. That's the key. Like, go through it the first time and do what you're going to do, but then go through it again, and now you don't have the stress of like worrying about how things are going to work out. So
he tries that, and he goes through the day, and then this time when his boss is a bit of a dick, he makes a little joke on his notepad, and this time he's nice to the lady who's selling him his sandwich, and he appreciates the architecture of the courthouse as he's walking in, and then when he wins the case, he's like, fist pump, yeah, and when he's riding on the train home, the guy with the loud headphones next to him, he starts doing air guitar to enjoy the life around him, and it's like, it feels like a lot of people are able to just enjoy their day like this without having to live it the first time.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's what the end of the movie then does, is that as he hits the ending, he specifically says, I've taken it one step further than my father. I don't go back and repeat days like he said to do.
He stopped going back. He stopped going back in time at all.
Every day. I live every day as if it is that second day, and I don't worry about it.
He stopped using the mechanic at all, which obviously, it was always going to be the lesson. It was always going to be the point of the movie, is that don't rely on this crutch. Like, just enjoy life for what it is, because the time's going to run out. And it's that idea of like, him choosing to have to let go of his father is something that everyone just is forced to do when someone dies, whereas he's got this little extra time to actually pick it or not. So it's, it's using his mechanics for character stuff, and that's perfectly okay for that to be the focus. But, like, the characters, like we said, maybe are a little too saccharine and like could use a little bit more faults. Like it would have been interesting to find out the dad, like, hey, I know that rule about the kids changing because I actually kind of messed it up, and like you were someone else for 5 years and I ruined it, and I just had to accept you instead, and I never went back after that. I learned a lesson.
Yeah, it's important to draw the line though, because I don't want the characters to be tortured. I don't want them to go through these negative things and like it's hanging over their heads as this just absolute failure that they are just trying to live with or anything. I still want these things to be saccharine. I still want them to have a good life. But I do think that there is this complete lack of consequences to anything that just kind of drains the movie of
stakes.
Yeah, stakes, but like even deeper than that. This idea of I want the characters to struggle so that I can see them overcome it. Like, I feel it would be more powerful to see them overcome these problems than just not have the problems to begin with.
I think it's definitely worth noting that the relationship between Tim and Mary is never in jeopardy. Like, the closest it ever comes is like, oh, Margot Robbie's shown back up and like he's obviously got the opportunity to do something bad. But they never have like a real fight. They never have anything where they're struggling. Like, maybe after the first kid's born, they're a bit stressed or something and a lesson's learned. And I'm not saying, it doesn't have to be something where they almost get divorced over it, but just, they have a bit of a fight. They learn something from it or something.
The most we get in this, and I think the closest we get, is we have a section where as Mary's trying on some dresses to meet with the client or something like that, their kid gets in and ruins a manuscript that she was supposed to read, and it's played as this thing of like he keeps on trying to duck out to be able to go back and fix it, but she's so pissed off that she's not letting him leave.
Yeah, but there's a frustrating element to that though, which is like, because I like that moment, I would say, oh, finally, like he's trying to travel back in time, but she's like, no, you're staying here and talking to me, and it's like, oh, this is interesting. He's going to, at the very least, he's going to have to like deal with the brunt of this before he can change it. Like, even if he gets to change it later, he's going to have to like go through this part first.
Right.
But that's when they get the call about the dad being sick, and it's completely dropped. Like, it never comes up after that.
Everything doesn't matter. It's all about the dad now.
Yep. And obviously the dress part as well is like just a comedy thing where she's coming in and like trying on different dresses, and he's like, the same dress? Trick question? Yeah. She's like, no!
See, I thought that the comedy, right up until they did the cancer bit, I thought the comedy of the bit was going to be he's going to go back and undo the manuscript thing, but he realizes I'm going to have to sit through the whole dress thing again. Like, there's no way. In order to fix this, I have to do that again. Oh, God.
Oh, but the comedy might be that he'll accept the punishment and the anger because he'd rather do that than sit through the dress thing again.
Do I really want to do that? Is it really that big of a deal?
Yeah, there could have been comedy there with that. Yeah, because it would have been really interesting to see him actually like accept that he can't fix something, not because there'll be like a huge like, a child will change consequence, but he accepts that, you know what, I did something bad and I have to actually accept that I'm getting my comeuppance for it.
Yeah,
but
I mean, that would be fine, but not here. It's not what the movie's about.
No. So I like, it's not a bad movie. It is what it wants to be, but I do think it's a little too saccharine for my taste, and the time travel mechanics do just start going out the window in the back third, like aggressively.
I do also just want to bring up here at like the end, there was an uncle who theoretically has time travel powers.
Oh yeah, we've not even talked about him.
Never did anything.
Well, I was actually thinking they were setting something up, because right at the start they're introducing the family and the uncle lives with them, right? Uncle D. Mm-hmm. And he is always confused, like he's got dementia or something like that, and he's always forgetting things. And I thought, oh, is this a side effect because he's time traveled too much or something, right? Is this that kind of thing, or is he time traveling constantly that he's not that he's forgetting, he's literally just like went through so many timelines that he's confused about things? Because the jokes are like, for example, when Mary's over at dinner before they announce they're pregnant or whatever, they say, oh, we're getting married, and he turns and says, oh, who are you getting married to? And he's like, oh, Mary. And he's like, oh, that's good, that'd have been really awkward if it was someone else. And then she says, oh, we're pregnant. And he's like, who's the father? It's like, oh, that would be Tim. It's like, oh, that's good, because it would have been very awkward if it was some other fella. Yeah. And I'm like, okay, that's vaguely amusing, but it felt like they were building to something about why he is like this.
I feel like the jumping timelines thing would be like the best point to be able to make about that, of like losing track of himself, because then it would have even made it more poignant at the end. Well, like the last thing we get out of him is at your wedding, he talks to Tim, at your wedding during the best man speech, your dad said how much he loved me during that, and that was the best day of my life. And to have that one point be so salient, it would theoretically be the thing that like he's not going back and ever changing that.
Although, wrinkle here, we're assuming he's the father's brother. That's not necessarily the case, is it?
I feel like it was pointed out when he was explaining the rules. He was saying like, oh yeah, me and your Uncle Desmond or whatever. But
probably
I could be wrong.
I'm just thinking if it was the mother's brother, that would explain why, like, he's just ill, and that's all it is. Yeah.
But, I mean, it would have, but I also don't think that would be a reason why Bill Nighy would say that he loves Uncle Desmond, unless it was literally his brother.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, it's strange, because I thought they were going to, if not do something bigger with it, I thought there would be at least one moment of acknowledgement, because even when he's explaining to Tim that the men in the family can time travel, Tim specifically says, oh, so grandfather and all of grandfather's brothers could all do it. He never mentions the uncle, who's the other male family member who's actively around and lives with them. He never asks about him, and it never comes up. No one ever alludes to it. The dad, Bill Nighy, never ever even like sort of like hints at the idea that Uncle D is also traveling backwards in time. We're just kind of left to like, and I kind of appreciate that in a sense. Like if they did something even a bit weirder with him, where I'm like, oh, we can sit and theorize why he's like this and why is he so messed up. Maybe it is because he's time traveling so much, and what does that say? Because I do think the idea that Bill Nighy's been time traveling all this time, and we never actually see it for the most part, and we can just sort of in hindsight go, oh, that's why it always seemed like he was happy, because he'd kind of went back and did it again until he was doing it the way that made him happy, and that's like a fun little thing that makes sense by the time you get to the end. But there's never a moment like that with the uncle where you're like, oh, like this explains, or at least hints that he's doing all these crazy time travel adventures that make sense or don't make sense or whatever.
Yeah. I don't know. It just seemed like a missed opportunity for the character. Like, that character didn't really do anything in the plot that's relevant to much of anything, save for that last conversation, which felt like it could have been a much bigger piece if it were explained as some lore.
I think it's very fair to say, though, that all the things that we have mostly been talking about is not, like, the people who like this movie, most of that audience do not care about anything we've said for any of this.
Not at all. I mean, again, I'll say it right before we cut over the ratings here, but, like, I like this movie from a romantic comedy viewpoint. In all the things that I liked about Love Actually, I think this movie does maybe not as well, but very close. It does a great job with the dry humor, the wittiness of it, the way that it handles its romantic leads, and it is a feel-good movie. I felt good watching it. I think it's just a matter of when you introduce this other aspect of time travel, you get other problems that are expected to come up from that this movie had no interest in exploring. And that's the only real downfall to it. Yeah.
And that was always going to be the part that I was more interested in. So it is what it is. It's pleasant enough to watch, though. It's definitely well enough made where, it's paced well, the characters are likable enough. But in a way, almost like too likable, where they could have a bit more drama to them to actually get a bit more story out of it. But hey, that is what it is what I'm trying to say. All right, David, what are you rating About Time out of 10?
I feel pretty confident in my rating here. Beginning to end, I came into this with a number, I left with a number. It's good. It is a good movie. I don't think that's up for debate. I don't feel like that's something I am kowtowing to one side or the other with. It's a good movie. I had fun with it. It has flaws, but it's not breaking the entirety of the experience for me. So I'm going to say a very solid 7.
I think I will be going with the 6.5, which is my way of saying that I think there's just enough issues with it for me, between the time travel stuff and between the lack of stakes, that just makes it feel like I just can't quite call it into that good category for me. But I'm giving it that extra 0.5 over the decent mark, because I think it does excel at the very specific couple of things that it really does want to do. And so I guess at the extra 0.5 is I think it is nailing what it's trying to be. I just don't think what it's trying to be is aiming high enough. Which, take that for what you will. And part of that's taste, of course, but yeah, there you go. And just to wrap up here before we get to the final parts of the show here, I haven't explained what my opening was yet. We never really brought it up, but
no, I wasn't intending to. I wanted you to sit with that.
No. when she's doing like a striptease, it's basically she's saying, "Hey, we've been dilly-dallying about these wedding decisions. I'll take an item of clothing off for every decision you make. You'll make a hard decision, I'll take an item off. So it's like, hey, pick a location. It says home, so she takes off a shirt, so on and so on. She gets to the point where she's just in her panties, and she's like, what about the honeymoon? Where are we going? And he's like, oh, we'll spend a weekend in Scotland. And she says, I'm not taking my pants off for Scotland, which is why I started this review with, I'm not taking my pants off for Rachel McAdams. Yeah, her name. I blanked on her name there. I was like, what's her name? Yeah. So
look, you're a brave man for saying that you wouldn't do that. Possibly the only man I've ever met who actively would not do that. So congratulations.
Oh, if I ever meet her, I'm bringing it on. I'm like, you said this, and I'm not happy about it.
Yeah. I believe that was Richard Curtis who was writing the script. No, you said it.
Come here, your mouth.
I'm blaming you.
You could have refused. You could have went all diva on him and said, no, I'm not saying that.
Could have done that Ben Affleck and Gone Girl thing where you just hold up all production over a baseball cap.
How dare you? Like, I saw Mean Girls. This is the meanest thing you've said. Right?
Yeah.
Right? Meaner than anything you said in that movie.
Yep, that's fair.
Anyway, so yeah, David's got his homework movie, of course, which you'll get to in a second. But you can, of course, support the Atomic Cinema Experiment over on Patreon. Get a bunch of bonus stuff, including the ratings rundown segments for each episode. And, of course, we do a bonus show once a month called Extra Reels, where we review some of the worst movies of all time. And then, of course, aside from Patreon, we also do Collector's Cut, our other movie show. We're doing Submarine Season over there right now. So if that sounds like a fun time, go check out that. But we do seasons on that show of different either franchises, directors, actors, a theme of some kind. But yeah, so that is all that. But yeah, David does his homework movie. Oh, and I should tell you what's coming next week, actually, before I forget. Next week, vote winner from Patreon. We had some Jean-Pierre Jeunet films up for vote, and the winner was Delicatessen, so that's what's coming next week. So look forward to that. But yes. So David goes back every week and checks out a movie that we did in the show before he joined, so he could be eventually caught up. He probably should have done Ex Machina this week if he'd thought about it. But
I should have.
Well, we'd already done Last Jedi, which is the other thing Domhnall Gleeson's in. But hey, what was this week's homework movie, David?
I still pulled something out here. So okay. I didn't want to do Ex Machina because I just did not have the mental capacity to deal with that at the moment. But I instead thought, you know what? I love me some time travel, and I love me some Gleeson. I did Edge of Tomorrow. / Live, Die, Repeat.
Who's the Gleeson in that?
Brendan Gleeson, his father. That's
right, he is in that. You're right. I forgot Brendan Gleeson was in that. I knew Brendan Gleeson was his father. Like, I'm familiar with Brendan Gleeson, because Domhnall Gleeson has always been, that's Brendan Gleeson's son to me, right? I've always thought of him as that.
Yeah, absolutely. He's totally a Nepo baby. But, I've seen Edge of Tomorrow / Live, Die, Repeat.
Had you not done this before, Mark?
No, apparently not. I checked on it. I have not. You're thinking of a different loop.
I swear.
We reset that one.
I swear you've done this before. You've just forgot to mark it down, so you're doing it again.
What if every 50 episodes I just say Live, Die, Repeat? And I'm like, yeah, that's totally, I never did this before. What are you talking about?
Oh, yeah. Okay. I'll just, obviously it's a very good movie. The ending's not perfect, but otherwise it's a very good movie. Well, I should, when I say that, what I should say is the final sort of conflict is just okay. I do actually really love the last 2 minutes. I think the payoff at the very, very end is great. But
no, third act fight is just boring. They don't do it quite well.
That's all I'll say. However, Full Metal Bitch is the best nickname that's ever designed, and the most unrelatable thing I've ever felt in a movie is why Emily Blunt's character does not like being called that, because I would love to be called that. If I was a woman. Or fine, even if I'm not. You want to call me Full Metal Bitch? I think I'd accept it as is.
I will take that to every live stream I ever join with you ever again. I've seen this movie several times. I love it every time. It's kind of like Groundhog Day is obviously what it is. It is this perfect little, I guess you call it a rom-com, but it's a comedy first and foremost. And I feel like it does.
Groundhog Day. I was like, that does not apply to the Edge of Tomorrow. What are we talking about?
No, it's a good comedy. It does it well. It does good character development and all that. I think that Edge of Tomorrow kind of killed the time loop movie for action. It just kind of nailed it. And it's done a great job with all of its different elements. The mimics are great creature designs.
Question. Have you seen Happy Death Day?
More than half of it. I didn't get to finish it.
You've seen half a Death Day.
Yes.
You should watch that, because I think it's also kind of the best horror version of the time loop movie.
I was thinking exactly how I wanted to limit Edge of Tomorrow in my head. Action specifically. Yeah. I know that it exists for horror. I'm kind of just scared to watch a Scott Lobdell movie. I know you sing its praises, but I'm still scared.
Look, I hate Scott Lobdell, but his script for that turned into gold. I don't know, maybe the director altered a lot of it or what. I don't know, but it worked out.
Yeah, no. But no, this movie's great. Tom Cruise does a fantastic job of playing this guy who starts off totally smarmy, and then just you learn to love him over the course of the movie.
And a coward as well, let's not forget.
Yeah, exactly. And he does a great job of selling this. Emily Blunt, same thing. She does a great job of letting you in more in the character. I think the biggest problem with the movie is that it peaks right before the third act. That is absolutely, I think the best scene of the movie, arguably, is the sequence where he is sitting down and having a talk with Brendan Gleeson. And then everything after that is kind of well, all right, we're just doing whatever. So overall, I love it. I think it's probably, for me, it's almost at the 9, but I'm going to say 8.5, just because completely failing the third act like they did does really tank the score for me. So
yeah. That's my bigger thing, is that I think a lot of the third act is just okay at best. But I do like the epilogue sort of little sequence. I do think is a perfect capper to what the point of the story was.
Yeah.
So I do want to be clear about that when I say the ending, because I don't mean that actual last couple of minutes. But I mean, it was one of the last things I saw Bill Paxton in as well. So we've seen that, because he passed away a couple of years after that. Mm-hmm. But there you go. That is the Atomic Cinema Experiment. That is us. So we'll be back next week. I did not expect to go about 2 hours on About Time, but somehow we complained about time travel mechanics enough that it happened. So here we are. Thank you for joining us and all the rest of it. We do appreciate it, and we'll see you guys next time. So keep watching science fiction and computer ad salsa.